Hello. Checking in with Stnr for chapter 13 of Stnr, which really pulls off the. I mean, really, on the surface, it's a older professor, William Stnr, having an affair with a much younger. Um, she's not a direct student of him, um, younger woman. Uh, you know, cheating on his wife Edith, who it's been well established that they have no no relationship, or an incredibly estranged, distant one, mostly initiated by Edith. Um, and um, it's a chapter where Stnr Stnr realizes in the midst of in the midst of this intimacy that it occurred to him, this is page 196, it occurred to him that he had never known before the body of another. And it occurred to him further that that was the reason why he had always somehow separated the self of another from the body that carried that self around. And it occurred to him at last, with the finality of knowledge, that he had never known another human being with any intimacy or trust, or with the human warmth of commitment. This is happening to him in his 43rd year, that he's realizing that. And he seems to really have it's a relationship of equals, and they sort of know. There's this sense throughout the relationship that this affair, that they know it's not gonna not going to last. In a way, they both seem to be very aware of the situation. This isn't one of these things where suddenly Catherine is going to be the scorned woman, or be hurt, or feel like, oh, you've led me on, or something like that, or deluding herself that there could be anything more in this relationship. And it's odd, actually, and it's odd, and in surprise, it's just it veers away from the cliches of also, like, well, his relationship with Edith. Um, it was a relationship that, according to the quote given opinion unquote, ought to have worsened steadily, as what was given opinion would describe as his affair went on, but it no such thing. On the contrary, it seemed to steadily improve. This is his relationship with his wife and his daughter. His lengthening absences away from what he still had to call his home seemed to bring him closer to both Edith and Grace than it had been in years. He began to have for Edith a curious friendliness that was close to affection, and they even talked together now and then of nothing in particular. They go on to talk about how she actually kind of does a couple of things that are sort of decent things, and how he actually goes for walks with his daughter Grace, who's kind of able, without kind of the tightness of her mother, is able to kind of soften a little, and sort of smile, and kind of that warm kind of soberness that she had before with him, before Edith came back, is there. And yeah, it's one of these things of, like, they basically talk about how, if nothing else, like, they get away for a week. Like, Edith and Grace go away to Edith's parent, her mother, for Christmas. And so he and Catherine go off, and are able to spend time together in a cabin together, her wearing a wedding ring. And just Williams is really good at catching just kind of that sensuality. It's like, sometimes they made love and stayed in bed all morning and talked until the sun came through an east window. Sometimes Stnr sprang out of bed as soon as they were awake, and pulled the covers from Catherine's naked body, and laughed at her screams as he kindled a fire in the great fireplace. Then they huddled together before the fireplace, with only a blanket around them, and waited to be warmed by the growing fire and the natural warmth of their own bodies. It's got that kind of the pureness of just the moment in it, and at the same time, it's also kind of a relationship where as they've settled down into it, it's a relationship of minds that, he used to think that it was a separate thing. Like, there was either the sensuality or there was the mind, but this is actually both, where she's still working on her work. He's actually taking up studies that he had long abandoned. And they've got that connection as well, a connection of both mind and body. So, and it's one of these wonderful things. However, it's a closed campus. Finch, his friend, who's the kind of the head of the university now, calls him in, and says, this could become a problem. People are knowing about it, and he goes back, and Catherine has also heard about it, and they know that they know that it's gonna go wrong, that it's gonna go. And indeed, he ends up getting a call back again, and the thing that could be the most predictable happens is that Stnr has an enemy. Stnr has Lomax, Hollis Lomax there, who is like, and Lomax, as Finch says, he frames it perfectly. It's like he didn't come at Stnr, he comes at Catherine, saying that, well, he's had complaints that there seems to be men coming into her apartment at all hours of the evening, and all this stuff, like she's basically being kind of a loose woman, and he's like, and Lomax was like, according to Finch, was like, oh, he framed it perfectly as like, this is something like, I don't shame her for that and stuff like that, but we have to think of the reputation of the university, and that I'm probably going to have to fire her and stuff like that. And it's like, fuck, and it's, unfortunately, it is. And Stnr, I mean, maybe it's also to his credit, he's like, I didn't realize he hated me so that much, which I think is just a matter of how much animus Stnr actually has in him, that he can't imagine that amount of animus in another human being. And indeed, that's what's happening. And so, he goes to Catherine, and they basically say, yeah, we knew this was going to come on us. And it's like, and he does proffer the kind of the thing of like, he says, if I threw it away, if I gave it up, just walked out, you would go with me, wouldn't you? This is page 214. Yes, she said. But I wouldn't do that, don't you? Yes, I know. Because then, Stnr explained to himself, none of it would mean anything. Nothing we have done, nothing we have been. I almost certainly wouldn't be able to teach, and you would become something else. We both would become something else, something other than ourselves. We would be nothing. Nothing, she said. And we would have come out of this, at least, with ourselves. We would know we are what we are. Yes, Catherine said. Because in the long run, Stnr said, it isn't Edith or even Grace or the certainty of the certainty of losing Grace that keeps me here. It isn't the scandal or the hurt to you or me. It isn't the hardship that we would have to go through, or even the loss of love we might have to face. It's simply the destruction of ourselves, of what we do. I know, Catherine said. So we are of the world, after all. We should have known that. We did know it, I believe, but we had to withdraw a little, pretend a little, so that we could. I know, Catherine said. I know it. I've known it all along, I guess, even with the pretending. I've known that sometime we would. I've known. She halted and looked at him steadily. Her eyes became suddenly bright with tears. But damn it all, Bill. Damn it all. And then they say no more. They embrace, they make love one more time. He leaves after she has fallen asleep. And she gets up the next day and packs up all her stuff, sends off resignation thing, and leaves. And, and she was on the train on her way out of Columbia by 2:00 that afternoon. She must have been planning her departure for some time, Stnr realized, and he was grateful that he had not known, and that she had left him with no final note to say what could not be said. And yeah, that little that little moment of happiness in Stoner's life is left 2 o'clock that afternoon. So yeah, that's Stoner. Which, it gives, maybe this, it's written by an English, it's written by, John Williams was a English professor, writer of creative writing, that he's given so much dignity and heart to what's an affair between a professor and she's not a, she's, well, I guess she's kind of she's student instructor. Um, it, it does a good job of that. It does a good job of that. You're totally in Stoner's camp, even though there's a part of you now that can kind of go, oh, it's older guy having an affair with a younger woman who could be like his daughter. He could be his daughter if he had his daughter at 20. So that's in that sense bad. But you see these as two adults having a consensual affair. Yes, he's got a wife. The wife, Edith knew. She says she knew from the beginning. She doesn't seem to. She battles back and forth on exactly how she is. She's not like completely cool with it, but she doesn't interfere with it. She's just like, continue. Obviously, if it had become public knowledge that, if he tried to have a divorce, she would have fought it. It would have become messy. Would have become, understandably, you can understand that even on Edith's part from this book that is so heavily on Stoner's side. Yeah. So, but that it's those poles. We got Lomax on one side, we got Edith on the other side, and we got Stoner in the middle, as this kind of acted upon creature, but a creature that you really appreciate, guy that you really. I really sympathize with. I'm in his court. I love him. Oh, Bill. Damn it, Bill. All right. That is Stoner for today. And next chapter is chapter 14. Getting down there in the Stonerverse. More videos later.